Hello, and welcome back to Diecast Graveyard. My name is Paul. We've got a pretty interesting build today. We have a Hot Wheels Torero. Now this car was a pretty common car when the red lines first came out, and you could pretty much find them anywhere. Now you can also find these cars readily accessible on eBay and anybody that is selling red lines on, say, Facebook or anything like that. But they're definitely a cool car, and this one here is in desperate need of some attention and some TLC. We got a lot of paint on here. It looks like somebody didn't like the original yellow color underneath and painted it white. And the hood is missing. So we're going to have a hood repair in this video also. So grab your favorite adult beverage, sit back, and enjoy. Here I've already got the post drilled out of the car. Now like I said, this is in pretty rough shape. One of my subscribers, Milesium 487, sent this car to me and said, "Can you please restore this?" I said, well, I'll sure give it a try for sure. But it's we got to get this paint off here to really evaluate what we're dealing with here. The posts on this car are incredibly narrow, and again, we have to replace the hood. The base isn't in too bad a shape. It is tarnished, but we'll have to fix that and get the paint off there. We'll definitely have to do a tire swap. Interior is in good shape. You can see the pin there from where the windshield broke, but that's not going to interfere in any way. So that needs to be cleaned. And the windshield is in incredibly rough shape, so we're definitely going to have to sand that down and hit it with the gauzy. Looks like I got my work cut out for me here. Maybe even have to replace that windshield. Let's go ahead and dip this body in the embalming fluid. Get that old paint off there. Try and coat the entire thing as best you can. Let that excess drip off. And then put it on some kind of surface to let it set for a while until all that paint bubbles off. Looking good. Let's go ahead and move on.
A little later.
We got the body out of the embalming fluid. Now we're going to shine it up with some flitz. I did touch it up lightly with some steel wool, but overall, it really wasn't in that bad a shape. The paint must have protected it that was on there. Speed this up a little bit. You've seen me buff things out here before. I love that flitz. Great, great product. And if you need to shine it more, put some more flitz on there and keep on shining. Now that we've got it all buffed out, we'll go ahead and rub that excess off and see what we're dealing with here. That actually turned out pretty good. Now we're going to have to touch it up again when we put the new hood on. That's looking pretty good. Here we've got the windshield. I did notice there were some cracks in there, but we're going to go ahead and sand it down, and then we'll hit it with the gauzy. I sped it up because I know that this part is incredibly boring. Just use your sandpaper and climb the numbers in succession. So if you start with 400, then go to say 800 or 1,000, and then 1,500, and then 2,000, etc. And you'll get your windshield nice and smooth again to where when you dip it in the gauzy, it'll look brand new. I think we've about sanded that enough. Let's move on. First thing we're going to do is we're going to hit it with the Meguiar's Plastex polish. That'll help take some of the scratches out of there also. Just make sure that when you're done, you wipe it down really good to get any excess polish off there, because the polish will repel water and paint and the like. And you want to make sure that it's going to hold the gauzy. So you got to clean this really, really good. I recommend cleaning it with soap and water and a fine toothbrush, a soft toothbrush anyway, and then get that excess off there before you dip it in the gauzy. Took a lot of those scratches out. It turned out pretty decent. Might not have to replace this after all. Sometimes these extra windshields are hard to get, and you may have to find a donor car to use in order to get the extra parts you need, which is the case. I happen to have another Torero, and when I went to replace the hood, the back end of the car was smashed, so at least I could use the hood out of it anyway. Here we've got the gauzy. I've already mixed it up, and we're going to take the tweezers and dip it in. Make sure it's coated really well. Now, if you're looking for this gauzy, you can find this on my Amazon Marketplace page. Now, the page I have, the link for it is in the comments. And if the link doesn't work, just go ahead and copy it and paste it to your web browser, and it'll take you right to my Amazon Marketplace page. Here, make sure you wick off the excess gauzy. You don't want it pooling on your windshield. Put it on a flat surface. I put it on here a paper towel, and then I cover it with some type of cover so the dust doesn't get after it. And it usually dries up in about an hour or so, but I let mine sit for a few hours at least. Now here we're going to dip the base in a mixture of Lime-A-Way and water, a 50-50 mixture. And you don't want this sitting any more than 3 to 4 minutes, so you got to watch it very careful. And this is going to help remove the tarnish off the base of the car. I sped this up just so we can get through this process. Have some more of your adult beverage and enjoy. That's been about 3 minutes. Let's move on. Now we're going to take the brass brush and we're going to scrub it down, trying to get off as much of this tarnish as we possibly can. Make sure you get all those areas. Now I leave the old tires on there while I'm doing this process, and I leave the tires on anyway because I don't want the brush to catch on to the wire wheels of the axle. Now I've had it before where I've been scrubbing away doing this, and all of a sudden I rip the wheel off or rip the bearing off there. So leave those on to protect that wire, and it'll just give you that little bit of extra insurance you could possibly use to prevent you from breaking or damaging any of the parts. Once this is done, I'm going to take it to the sink and scrub it down with soapy water and a soft bristle brush, and we'll continue from there. Looking good. Now what you've been waiting for here, the hood repair. I took some little thin brass pipe. This is some of the pipe that I use sometimes when I'm trying to put an axle in a car. I put it inside that little C-clamp there that usually holds the pins of the hood. Now I have a hood here, but the pins were broken. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to file off these little lumps here that the hood pins were and take it down flat to the hood. Here I've got a little bit of axle tube, and this fits right inside that little brass tube there that I have. Now the idea is to slip that in place. Easier said than done, right? Put that axle piece that I cut the length. Take my razor, slide that over, and put that inside the other C-clamp. Now I'm going to take a little bit of glue, and I'm going to glue those little brass pieces in place without getting it onto the axle wire that I put in there. And again, I have to file those other pieces away on that hood. I think you're getting the general idea here. There's the wire that I installed. Hopefully I'll get that glued in place. There's the hood to the inside I filed down. Make sure you have enough room in the front here when you put this hood in and glue it in place, because you don't want it to bind up when you go to open the hood. Once I get it where I want it, I'm going to tape it in place so it doesn't shift. There we go. Make sure the wire is turned to where you're getting the maximum surface of the wire touching the hood. Like that. Sorry for that camera angle there. Once I get it where I want to, I'm going to take a little bit of the gel super glue and I'm going to dab it on there and glue it in place. Just make sure you don't get it near the brass tubing, because you don't want to glue the hood to where it won't open. Now I'm going to use a little bit of activator here to instantly harden that super glue. Now let's test it and make sure it works. Look at that. And there's a good hood repair. I did go back in later and put a little dab of glue on that brass tubing there so it wouldn't move around, but just a little tiny bit. Nice. Let's go ahead and move on. Here we're going to do a wheel swap. Now this car has 2 large meats for the back and 2 medium meats for the front. Already stripped off the old wheels, so let's go ahead and get the new ones on. I put them on, but I put them on lightly, and then I'm going to use the red line tool to push them on and seat them firmly on the car. There we go, my handy dandy trusty red line tools that I got from the red line shop. Put the bearing or the tool between the bearing and the body of the car. If you can fit it in there, don't force it now. That one wouldn't fit, so we went ahead and pushed that on as best we could. Same thing here. Just make sure you don't bend the axle. We'll try it in the back now. That fits good. And that fit good there. Now we got 4 brand new meats on the base of that car. That's going to look excellent. Let's paint the body. Now when I talked to the subscriber to do this car, he said paint it the original color that it came. So here we're using an apple green or a lime green paint, this Spectre Flame paint. And that color is absolutely beautiful. The secret to painting these really light colors like the apple green and the gold and the hot pink and like that is to spray incredibly light coats and then build up. You don't want to saturate it, because by the time you start to see the color, you've put on a lot of paint, so you don't want it to run. So take your time, put on some light coats, and then slowly build it up. And in the very end, then you can get a saturation coat and get that shine that you want. Make sure you spray up inside the car also, get the fender wells, etc. Let's let that set. We let it set for about 15 minutes, so let's go ahead and move on. Put on just a little bit heavier coats now. But that color is really starting to pop. That's looking nice. Beautiful color too. That looks fantastic. We'll let that dry overnight and then we'll put it together. Now here's all the parts after letting it sit overnight. We got the body with the hood repair. We touched up and detailed the back tail light. That looks fantastic. Here we've got the base. We cleaned and polished that up and put 4 brand new meats all the way around. That looks good. We've got the interior. We scrubbed that out with soap and water and cleaned it. And then we've got the windshield that we cleaned up, sanded down, and coated with the gauzy. Let's put it together and have our reveal. And here's what we started with. A Hot Wheels Torero in desperate need of a restoration. We took the car apart. We got the excess paint off there. We put brand new wheels on there after we cleaned the base. We installed a brand new hood, and I showed you how to do the hood repair. Man, this car was pretty darn rough, but the final results speak for themselves. And this is what we got to. What a beautiful, beautiful restoration. Now, I know these cars are pretty darn common, but you know what? If you don't have one in your collection, especially one that looks this good, then you don't have a complete collection. We did a beautiful job here. We used the Spectre Flame Lime Apple Green paint to restore this car to its original color. We shined up the windshield and it turned out pretty good. The interior is nice and clean. Brand new wheels from the Redline shop. Check out the Redline shop, and there'll be a link in an advertisement space here at the end of this video. Man, I'm pretty happy with this, and I know that Milesium 487 is going to be happy with this also. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the comments because I read every single one. Or if you've got a car you'd like me to restore for you, please get a hold of me and I will do it for you. I'd like to introduce you to my Patreon team. Grim Reaper level, William K. 7 Robinson, Dale Johnson, Matt Miller, and new member Andre Triplett. Mortician level, Air Warrior Coffee Company, Jake Rademacher, Jason Warren, Ricky Montavo, and Sam Pascal. Funeral Director, Diecast Sheriff on YouTube, Double B's Customs on YouTube, Dave Christensen, Todd Binney, Ryan Goldstein, new member Mid-Island Custom Diecast on YouTube. Gravedigger level, Aaron Murphy, Andrew Hitchens, Bob DeNice, Chris Decker, Grizz Flowers, John Holman, John Sellers on YouTube, Johnny and William Hicks, Keith Kripe, he's got a great build coming up, Leroy, Les Jenkins, Michael Oxley, Richie Ramos, Stacy Wright, Trevor DeViz, and new member Donald Rashik. Pallbearer level, Daryl Bagtell, Gary Tasker, and Milesium 487. Hearst drivers, Adam Bowen, Diecast Pirate, Jason Saylor, Jim Silva on YouTube, Joe Pierce, Pete Langford, Pin Tony, Richard Reese, Michio Woods Garage on Facebook. Check out his Facebook sales for Hot Wheels. Somo Diecast on YouTube, Scott Turner, Steve Terrence, Tony Hughes, Wade Hendricks, Devil's Decals Diecast on YouTube, and new member Randy Helsel. Thank you. The link to join Patreon is in the comments. I sure could use your help. This video was brought to you by the Redline Shop. The Redline Shop offers a complete line of decals, tools to take your car apart, put them back together, replacement hoods, replacement glass, those beautiful Redline tires, and of course, the world famous Spectre Flame paints. Fantastic products. The Redline Shop at www.redlineshop.com, where Redlines come to life. Thank you for joining me today on Diecast Graveyard. I had a great time restoring this classic Redline. If you have any questions or comments that you'd like me to answer, just write them down in the comments. I read everything. I promise I do. Have a great day and happy holiday season from Diecast Graveyard. Cheers.